In today's video, I'm going to talk about what an API is, both in general and how it is useful to an SDET like you and me. So generally, API stands for Application Programming Interface. To understand what an API is, you just need to understand that API is just a contract between two systems. To understand this, let's take a very simple example of a database. Since I told you that API is just nothing more, just a way to interact with your database. So for example, let's take a database of a bank. Let's say you have a database and in that database you have one table called as bank accounts. And now you are basically building a software that basically checks the bank account balance, that can get the bank account, and that can do certain operations on that table. So now let's take an example. If API was not there, what the person or what the bank employee would have done? The bank employee would have directly go to the database table and he or she can manipulate the data, he or she can change the data any way the person wants to. He can check the balance, that is okay, I don't mind. But what if the person go and changes the balance? What will happen? That will cause a severe issue. And what if that person can see other details as well, which are not required for that person to see? So to solve this kind of problem, API has been introduced. So API, to understand API, in just simple words, you understand it. It is just a secured way to interact with the database. So now, since we have an API, so for example, API can expose only limited functionality. For example, API will only expose that I only want to show the bank balance. I don't want the user to manipulate and change the bank balance, right? So in that case, API will just expose a route / check balance. Now user like me and you or any bank employee can come and just click on check balance and can check the balance, which will just get the balance from the account. It will not go to the account database and it will just manipulate the bank balance. So API is just a secured way of interacting with the database, right? Let's do one thing. Let's try to understand it with a very simple example of a restaurant. Okay, imagine you are with your family and you are going to a restaurant and you want to order something. So how do you order a food in a restaurant? You just go to the restaurant, you sit on the table, and then you have a menu card. And in that menu card, everything will be written like what do you want to order. Let's say pav bhaji, chole bhature, matcha, coffee, latte, strawberry. I don't know, whatever thing that you want, you can order. You don't go to the kitchen directly and ask the chef that okay, make me this product, right? That is hidden from us. So imagine this kitchen is your database and this menu is your API. So this menu exposes only those food products that are available in the kitchen. If certain food products are not available in the kitchen, they will strike through in the menu and they will tell you that okay, this product is not available. So now it's a more convenient way that I don't need to go inside and I don't need to tell the chef that I want this, then chef will tell me okay, no, this is not present, or I cannot manipulate the chef. I can just see the menu, I can just see the API and I can see what are the functionalities that are available for me and how I can basically go and manipulate the database, or how I can go and get the food cooked for me. So that is what API is for you. Now I want you to also understand a very real life use case. So for example, imagine you are working for a company called Make My Trip, okay? Now what does Make My Trip does? If you have ever opened the website of Make My Trip for flight booking, you must have seen that in Make My Trip, if you search for a flight for a certain date, for example, I am searching for a flight for let's say 20th of September, and on that day I can have multiple flights. I can have Indigo, I can have Air India, I can have SpiceJet, I can have Emirates, I can have multiple other flights as well, right? Now, since all of these airlines are different, and all of the timings and the prices of the airline can change anytime whenever the airline wants. It's up to on the, for example, Indigo can change the price of the airline. Indigo can change the timing of the airline. How will Make My Trip know that this timing and this price have been changed? Just think it. Just think through it. This is where a API comes into the picture. So now what happens is Indigo, SpiceJet or probably any airline in the universe, they will provide us with an API. Okay, and that API exposes certain data like flight timings, flight prices and other necessary details. And a company like Make My Trip or GoIbibo or Ixigo can consume this API data and can showcase the data into their website, and now we as a user can go to Make My Trip and now we can do the flight bookings and everything, right? So this is the entire working of an API. Remember, the API data can change because API is now controlled by Indigo. Indigo will have a separate API, SpiceJet will have a separate API, Jet Airways will have a separate API. So the data and the API is controlled by the certain airlines. Make My Trip is just a consumer of that API, right? I hope now it is clear how API works and how it basically changes our life. That was all for this video. If you have liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so that I can come up with more video and more interesting ideas. Also, I create a very interesting Selenium project and I also teach JMeter. If you are interested in that, please go out and check out my channel. Until then, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye. Take care. Good night.